Gwen?
Yes. It's pretty sunny in here. You got your sunglasses.
Right. Well, we just got done with Stanley's tennis lessons.
Yeah.
So this video today is about, we're going to reflect on some lessons that we learned in your triathlon career. And I like to say all the time, success leaves clues. And so I feel like, we're really lucky and blessed that we do have some clues around success that we learned from your triathlon career. And we're, able to take that to your running career. I can take that to my business. I think, there's a lot of different, and we get asked, by younger athletes all the time, what do you think? Yeah. And I think hopefully this is, we can go through some things that we learned mostly from your triathlon career, and then that really just jump-started this whole thing. So I've got some notes, and I'm going to, kind of prompt you, and then you can go from there.
Perfect.
How's that sound? Routine breeds more success than Hail Marys. Can you speak about that for a minute?
Yeah, something I really learned in triathlon was I didn't need to go out and perform a PR in practice. A lot of times it feels really good, and it's really, I think, can be a false sense of confidence if you go into a workout and just smash it. And that's not usually the goal of a workout. A lot of times a coach will give you a time to hit or certain reps, and you just want to blow it out of the water and exceed that. And for me, I really learned in triathlon that if I do that, then I have to recover from it. Then I don't hit training the next day. I remember one day in triathlon, I did a workout with, in Australia, was it Maddie?
I don't remember. Oh, yes.
And we went to the track, and I just went all out in 1Ks. I think I was going 250 low something in 1Ks, and she was doing 2Ks, and I was just on this huge high. But then the next day in the bike workout, I had one of the worst bike workouts I'd ever had. And that was really a teaching moment for me. Jamie had been instilling in me, and Jamie's my triathlon coach. He had been instilling in me, not to really do these Hail Marys, but to try to have consistency. And that week was a huge, finally, turning point in me realizing, if I go above and beyond what I should be doing in training, I'm not going to then be able to get the load of training. And consistency is what really leads to success, is just being able to be average every day instead of being really great and then having to come back and take a step back.
Yeah, perfect. All right, and then we've got the next one on here, autonomy. And I think we, talking about the coach's job is to teach athletes how to perform without them. Can you give some examples of that?
This one was hard for me to learn. I was definitely, I think a lot of type A athletes and growing up in high school and college, I just wanted to be told what to do. You tell me what to do. You tell me the send off. You tell me what to go. I'm going to do it. And Jamie Turner in triathlon would a lot of times say, this is what we're trying to do. You do the send off you need to do in order to achieve that outcome. And that was really hard for me. I just wanted to be told what to do it, be done, good athlete. And for me to have to think in training, we go to the swim and he'd say, okay, we're going to do 850s. And I'd say, what's the send off? And he'd say, whatever you need. And I'd think, well, I don't know what I need. And I had to think about, okay, I need to keep my form correct. I'm trying to keep my elbows high. And throughout it all, I really had to just take a step back, not focus on that outcome. And I think that's what really started having me focus on the process more. And, I've seen a lot of athletes over time where you get to a race and they're relying so much on their coach, and something that, having that autonomy was something that Jamie taught me, so I could go into a race feeling confident whether he was there, he wasn't there. There was a few races he wasn't there at. I think the Chicago race, was it a World Champs or just a WTS?
WTS that year.
He didn't go, and I felt very comfortable without Jamie there. And I think that's the job of a coach, is to teach the athletes how to perform without them. And your coach is there to guide you, and that's something that Jamie really did well, so that when you're in the middle of a race, if something happens, you can't look to your coach and say, what am I going to do? You need to have the internal tools to know how to perform.
Yeah, and I think, you kind of spoke about that with respect to me even the other day on an Instagram story about, I actively, because I knew that in Rio, I would not be able to cheer for you because you could not hear anything because there'd be so many people on the course. So, at some point in 2014, I just stopped speaking to you
Yep.
during races, because I knew that for the big event that we were getting ready for, you would not be able to take any information from me. So, that was another example of like just in races all the time, whether it's somebody I'm going to watch, like there's very few times that I'm actually providing any sort of information, because it's just, you're really, the athlete has to be out there fending for themselves and making their own decisions.
That's right. Because even if you do cheer on a course, you can't be there every second of the course.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then talk to us about, you had a note down about probably like you started your career, you weren't a leader, and then, how did you help develop those skills?
Yeah, I've never thought of myself as a leader. And even I remember in high school, I didn't learn this until after I was out of high school, but my high school orchestra teacher called my mom up and said, look, Gwen is the best violinist. I want to have her first chair, but I'm not sure if she's ready to be in a leadership role. Because I was someone who I didn't, when you're a leader, you have to kind of like feel the beat and lead the whole orchestra. And I don't really know exactly what my mom said, but I ended up being first chair, and that was really hard for me. It was really difficult. And then, transitioning into my triathlon career, I remember when I wanted to join Jamie Turner and the Wollongong Wizards, he said, well, are you gonna actually lead some swim sets? Because I had kind of done a test run, and I would always go last, and I'd just be like, I just want to go last. And I still find myself falling into that trap. I swam this week with a master's group, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go last. Like I want to follow, and I think it all comes back to not wanting that autonomy. And the autonomy, though, is where you grow. And so we got Stanley yelling. We're gonna be right back.
We're gonna pause it.
We're back.
We're back.
All right, so I think just to wrap up that bit, I think it's important, it can be scary to sometimes lead by example, to be the leader in a lane directly, and to lead indirectly through your actions can sometimes be scary, but it's something that I really learned and helped me become a better athlete.
I've got a note down here, the next one. Internal BS, external drive. What does that mean?
Well, I think, I'm going to kind of relate this back to how you were talking about cheering earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, no matter how I would do in a race, people would always say, good job, no matter if I was doing great or not great. And I think, that's a lot of us growing up where we are getting external cues of, oh, you're doing a good job. But to actually get confidence, I can't get confidence from that, we'll call it BS. I have to internally learn that I know how to do something and get the confidence that way. So for me, I've really learned to do this through journaling, and journaling is something that was difficult for me. I never was positive enough. I always could find the negatives of what was going on in training, but I had a really hard time finding the positives. And so a long time ago in triathlon, I started writing down 3 things every day that I was doing well. And those are process-based things, not outcome-based things. And those were what really gave me confidence. And those were the external things that gave me the external drive. So I knew, every day I'm showing up, I'm working on my technique, I'm practicing my mental skills, I'm hydrating enough, I'm fueling during practice, I'm doing all those things. And that gave me the internal confidence to then perform.
Okay, perfect. And then we've got a situation where when the outcome goes terribly wrong, what do you do?
I think there's 2 instances that really come to mind from my triathlon career. And the first one was I moved to Australia for 3 months, trained under Jamie Turner, thought everything was going great, did my first race and DNF'd. It was a horrible race. Like Jamie and Patrick were there and they're just like, just stop. It was bad. And for me, I exited that race and I was like, we need to change everything. Nothing's working. And Jamie calmed me down and said, we don't need to change everything. Things are going well. Just because the outcome wasn't what we wanted doesn't mean that all the process-based things we've been doing won't come to fruition. And that happened again in a race in Hamburg. I remember I had a bad swim. And I remember getting out and just being so mad at Jamie. I tried to blame it on him. I said, I came to you to be a good swimmer. My swimming wasn't good. And, I was like, we need to change everything. And he reminded me of that time earlier where we didn't need to change everything. We were on the right track. And at the time when I had that bad swim, we were doing a bike block for bike specific technical race. It was a triathlon, but it was bike heavy. And so I think, a lot of it is when things go wrong, a lot of times we want to go back to the drawing board and erase everything, but that's when we need to go back and actually realize, no, I've been doing the processes right, and eventually those outcomes will be there.
All right, and then we want to talk about being a cake. Tell me what that means.
I want you to explain this one.
Well, I think what we talked about early on in your triathlon career was you to be a cake, to win a cake icing competition, you needed to first start with the cake, right? And sometimes you could have something like a cupcake or a muffin, much smaller, with much fancier frosting.
That looks good.
That could accidentally maybe win the cake icing competition, but at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, you need to be a cake to win that cake icing competition. So that really, I think about that visually. Another way, it's building like a massive pyramid, and you got to have a great foundation to do that in. So,
that's exactly working on those fundamentals.
The foundation of your triathlon career was really done on, making you a triathlete, swim, bike, and run, and then the fancy stuff could come at the end. But ultimately, to demonstrate the best run that you were capable of, you needed to have an amazing swim and an amazing bike. And so I think we talk about that a lot. To win a cake icing competition, you have to be a cake.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, this is one I think Jamie and I always did a good job of, is
not me though.
Celebrating success, right, and not taking winning for granted.
And that was, I think, difficult for me, especially at the beginning. To have a good race, I'm tired. I didn't really want to celebrate. And I think that comes back to me not finding the good enough in what I was doing. And Jamie and Patrick are always like, we have to celebrate. Let's bring in the people that helped us. And that was something that just allowed me, I think, to have more fun in sport. And it also, in a strange way, allowed me to not be tied to my results, which is interesting, because you'd think like if you're celebrating success, you'd maybe like want more success and be tied to those outcomes. But taking that time to actually celebrate after each race, I think allowed me to, each race that we did well, allowed me to then be comfortable with who I was and understand that I wasn't just an athlete. And when I'd celebrate these successes, we'd go out to dinner, I'd invite people that helped me. And it was something that, was fun. And I'm really glad I did, even though I would be really tired after a race.
Yeah. And then, I think that would have been a great place to end, but there was probably one final point that I wanted to make, and that it is, winning can be isolating. And I think in really the case that I think of too is, it's almost calling on the team around you to say like, look, if you're going to be part of my team, I'm going to let you in. Like, you gotta, I expect the absolute best of you. Like, you've got to be gold medal quality around me. So I think you demanded a lot of people, whether you said it or didn't say it, because you were like, everybody had to meet your standard. Like, you had to work, whether you were doing massage, cooking, working on your bike, like you were, everybody could sense that you were putting so much effort in, so they had to rise to that level as well.
Yeah.
And I think like your BS detector, if like somebody wasn't going to rise to that level, you just be like, I don't have time for that person.
Yes. And when you are winning, I do think as well, like a lot of times, if everyone's trying to beat you, it can feel lonely on top. And that's when you do come back and you rely on those core people who mean a lot to you and who have invested in you. Should we just end with the best three things we've kind of learned? I think focus on the process, not the outcome.
Yep.
View things as investing in yourself, not a sacrifice.
Yep. The third one I always look to is core business.
What's your core business?
Yep. And just remember, like, and then that I think blends in with being a cake. It's just a lot of people get hung up on that final 1%. They want to chase like all these marginal gains, they'll call them, and it's like your foundation, your 99% has got to be so dialed before you even think about elevating to that last 1%.
Yeah.
So,
all right, hope you guys enjoyed this type of format.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption with Stanley in the middle, but it's just the way it goes.